Going, guys and girls? Jeremy here, Chaos Garage. Hate to say this, but we have had some footage issues. All right, I'm gonna redo this real quick. Unfortunately, I cannot rebuild them again because that footage is gone. But I'm gonna cover it. I know some of you guys are watching this because you want to do improvements to your C4 Corvette, and or even try to address some of these directions that I went with this car. So, and I don't want you to lose what happened. So I'm going to cover and go through the areas, the directions, and how to, just not the assembly. But I mean, at the same time, we're talking about assembling, AN lines that, there's 1,000 guys on there, literally telling you how to cut it, chop it, vise, shove the fitting in, screw it on. They're literally probably hundreds and hundreds of videos of that. But knowing how it was achieved from this point to that point, I figure is the biggest thing. So I'm going to try to run through this again. Again, I'm Jeremy. This is Chaos Garage, and this is the twin turbo Corvette build. And we are going to cover fuel to and return, and regulator and filter. So on the backside here at the tank, basically we have our 470 inside the fuel tank. Now we kept the original basically vapor connection points, and then on this side I put an extra one in there. We put a rubber fuel line to a barb on both of these. Now this guy essentially converts to a AN8 fitting and 90s. You can see the 90 here, and this one here is our feed line. This is our return. Well, this is a barb again, and it can be a bulkhead setup. And then it goes into a 90, which is a -10. So this guy comes down, and this guy comes down. And then, of course, it travels down through here, up underneath the vehicle, which you'll see in now. Boom. So, basically they come down, we come in between the tank and the bumper here, we drop down. Now we have some ground cables here that come through here, and then right here is the cross member that we basically have attached to. Now I used what is, believe it or not, these are electric conduit straps. And that guy right there actually works very well for twin lines when you're dealing with something this big. So we have a -10 and a -8 coming through here, and that is a lot. Those are some pretty big lines going through. Now, what the biggest goal here is with fuel lines is to limit the amount of bends, like hard 90s and 45s. Like what you have with your AM fittings, you really want to eliminate as much as those bends as possible and travel as straight as possible, and then of course a slow arch turn if you have to. The more bend you have in it, the more it reduces the actual fuel efficiency going forward. Now there's a whole technical way of explaining all this, and basically a lot of math and so on. I will not actually get into today because I'm basically just want to give you guys the logistics of how I did what I did, so that way we don't lose everything with the assembly and all that stuff. So as I said, we just drop down through there nice and easy, couple zip ties, no big deal. We just want to keep everything in line. And then there's that, and we'll come over our housing here, which if you keep the original housing, you don't have to keep it as tight, but it is what it is. So we're coming around here, as you can see, and then we drop down over here so I can get in line and then another strap there, again a zip tie, and then we just follow this guy here. Now if you don't have an X member like this, obviously you want to try to stay up top in the trans tunnel and not be this low, because you would never want something to catch on here. But with this transmission pan lower than this and all that stuff, you relatively you're going to be in much bigger trouble if you don't have those correct. So we basically come forward, and then our -10 right here, we got our inline filter, 100 micron there, and then we go up to the top of the motor. Now, as you can see, our filters here underneath the car, just like most are, and you know, it's pretty simply explained. Just welded some nuts here, or excuse me, I welded a bolt there and up top there. Now I put that on there because this line, the return, was actually up here for a minute banging on that, and we don't like that, so I figured why not cover that up. It's not long enough to come down here and get to this one, but I just used a cap off, or excuse me, a vacuum line that you just put that on top of your vacuum line if you don't need it anymore. And then so the return goes up and we have our filter going through and then up. So give me about 2 seconds and now we're on the upside. Delete this spot out until you show me up top. Okay, so we're at the top side now. Now you can see we have this line coming up and then our other line right here. Let's see if we can get some extra lighting in here. All right, see? So here's our main line coming in, our dash 10 coming in to our regulator, and then our return coming to the bottom of the regulator. So unfortunately, right now we have a kind of a small juncture right here, but that is just because the regulator was only coming with 2 dash 10s and, or excuse me, a dash 10, yeah, 2 dash 10s and a dash 6. The distance or the application is threading the dash 10 going down would only fit in the downside, so we had to use that on the return and convert to an 8 for that, and that is a complication many times. So but that's the return for the 90. But as you can see, we're straight. We only have a little bit of a 45 here. We are a little close to this side, unfortunately, which these will get, this will be hot tip coated again and then wrapped, so that'll help with the heat. But that's the return, of course, so not a real big deal. And then we got 190 right here, which we cannot avoid. I mean, look how tight it is back there. So we got some electrical we'll have to tie in later and get finished up. But long story short, that is only about 6 inches that has that dash 6. Now, if that is an actual issue, what I'll do is I'll have custom build a fitting into this regulator that will get us back to an actual dash 8 or a dash 10. And then, of course, again, the fuel rail has to be done the same way because it's only a dash 6 also. So, unfortunately, you know, not a lot of people need this much fuel. So, dash 6 seems to be very common with a lot of your fuel stuff. Now, if I had more space behind the engine, I could upgrade that dash 6 right there. And then also drill out the opening of that fitting on the back of the fuel rail. So that way it will allow more fuel through. Now I say that because when you see the inside of an AN fitting, let me see if I can grab one for us. All right, so inside here, if you see, there is a little bit of a thickness in the lip there. Right there on that. Some of that little bit of thickness basically can be machined out. So that way the inner diameter is a little bit bigger. So it accepts more fuel in this case, or oil or transmission fluid, whatever it may be. Where some, you know, they're super thin. Literally, it tapers right to the actual diameter of the inside there. So, you know, not all of them, all these fittings are going to come, you know, exactly that way. They will come, you know, with a little bit of extra thickness inside. So this guy has a little bit more. Let's see if you can see that or not. Kind of hard. There we go. That helped a little bit, maybe. Yeah, see? All right, so each fitting and each thing that you work with will be different, of course. And how you apply that and how it works with your vehicles, will change with your purpose. So, all right, get back over here. So we do have a fuel regulator right here up top, like I just showed you, and dash 10 all the way up here. So we literally are only going to have a little bit of a drop situation. Now, if that does actually create a problem for horsepower and fuel, we start running lean, then I'll address that at that point in time. But being such a short distance, it really should not be a problem. So, long story short, that's the way it goes sometimes in fabrication and the performance. Now, when you're building out these different setups, what to know needs to be used is like dash 6, dash 8, dash 10. That is honestly depends on how far away your fuel is, how much horsepower you're trying to get, how many bends and turns you have in it. There's a lot of different directions and a lot of different information out there to help you and guide you with that. Unfortunately, it's not like boom and you find it and it's instant and it's good. Even the guys that manufacture the actual fuel pumps, they'll tell you, yeah, we can do about this maybe. They don't exactly give you an exact parameter, so it can be a little trying sometimes to figure out exactly what you want or need. And this is where experience comes in handy. So if you're new at this, guys, do a lot of research. When it comes to the fuel system, it's better to have more than enough. So originally we were at a dash 8 and a dash 6 when we first started out, and then things changed, and then horsepower changed, and then a lot of things kept going. So we ended up just going all the way out with the fuel. So up until this point. In fact, at this point, we're borderline with the 470 fuel pump. So I mean, it was rated about 700 horsepower, but again, might have been actually better to have two pumps in there. So the line itself is more than big enough for everything we need. But again, will we have enough pump there? So because while it says a certain psi and a certain volume basically that it's going to deliver, how many liters and all, the problem is your car might not actually give it the full amps and voltage or the correct power at all times. So if you're fluctuating in power a little bit, then so is the power to your fuel pump, and it's super important that doesn't change as much as it does, as much as it can, because it will higher and lower the actual psi that you're getting. Now, most time it doesn't really change that much, but it can. So that can give you run lean spots. So sorry about that, guys, but I forgot today is due to the COVID, the city is allowing the students graduating today, last day. Sorry, excuse me. Anyways, to do a ride around to basically inspire their graduations. So, congrats to you guys. Sorry about you high schoolers graduating the way it has been, but our society has to change with the things that are happening to it, so we can move forward. But congratulations to them, and may they live on and move on prosperous ways in the future. All right, so back to this. The again, there's 1,000 different things that can change your fuel needs, and it's always better to run something bigger than expected, because you never know, your needs may change later too. So the cost is very minimal comparably to upgrade now. So it's always better to go in the future as if you might need more. So if you have the room, you have the budget, fuel lines, step it up just in case. And when you do a dash 10 as your feed, you want to go no lower than a dash 8, the next step down for your return. That way you don't have any back pressure issues there too. You want it to return as easily as it should. Um, Now, on your regulators, your fuel filters, all those different types of things, do what you can with your budget. Now, we didn't go with your highest end stuff, but I did pick filters and regulators that I've used before, and that I know that have performed properly as needed. There are a few things sometimes you got to check out, but long story short, make sure you get what you need or more than what you need in the future. Because I mean, you may up your ante later. You may decide that whatever horsepower range you'd have currently or was building for at that time is not enough, and you want more. So why spend all the money on fuel lines again? Because the AN fittings and AN lines are not terribly cheap, but you know why to go through it twice? So if you got the room and the space and the budget, go ahead and go up higher. So anyways, that's basically the coverage on the fuel system. We had to do some modifications to the fuel rails to get everything to fit. Things like that are not uncommon. So I actually had to trim the front and back side off a little bit. But on the injectors, we went with 80-pound injectors, decapped. So, and that's a pretty simple setup. Now, as I was saying a minute ago, I had to literally trim up. See, it used to have a V and an O over here. This side. Now, luckily, it's just a 3/4 standard thread there, fine thread. So once I trimmed that up, I was able to bring this in and clear the alternator. And then, of course, on the back side, I had a wiper motor right in my way. So I had to trim up that again and shorten it up and put that block off. Otherwise, I would have done dual feed lines. But he needs to be able to wipe the windshield off when it rains. So we could not do that to him. So things you do for your buddies. Who needs wiper blades, right? All right, so long story short, that is pretty much majority of our fuel system. We have the 470 in the tank, we have dash 10 coming all the way forward, and then we have dash 8 for the return going back, or excuse me, ANs and those, and then of course we have 80-pound injectors decaps. So basically we're looking like we're going to be doing pretty good, no problems there. So if you guys have any questions or need further information about any of the products I'm talking about, happily just throw in a comment or so. Sorry again that I couldn't show you some of the assembly and such, but I didn't want to lose that footage completely, so I just want to throw this up at least so you guys could see that. Unfortunately, we had a camera go down with about 3 or 4 different things in it, so I'm going to have to go through those and recap on that a bit. So, well, I know it isn't exactly what I normally do, but I did want to at least cover the base and not skip that completely. So, I'm Jeremy. This is Chaos Garage. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and definitely comment. That's how we know, or that's how we know we're doing what we need to help you or entertain you. So, have a lovely day. Stay safe out there, guys. COVID's not a joke, no matter what age you are. You just never know. And have a lovely day.